Hi, my name is Rose Parker, and I'm from the Instagram and podcast Psychosis Positivity. If you've known me before, great, welcome to my YouTube channel. If not, nice to meet you. Now, I'm a psychosis and schizophrenia advocate, and I like to talk about all sorts of issues pertaining to these disorders. One thing I'd like to talk about today as I begin this new platform is what it's like to live with schizophrenia, knowing that everything I experience might not actually be real. Now, this might sound like a pretty daunting question. After all, that sounds kind of scary. Everything might not be real. How can you really trust anything? But as someone who's had schizophrenia symptoms for literally as long as she can remember, it's something I've come to adapt to. Now, having had hallucinations, delusions, thought disorder, etc. from a very young age, I've learned to piece out the details of these experiences. Hallucinations are not exactly like everyday objects. Delusions are not the same as normal beliefs. Thought disorder messes with you. It doesn't treat you the same as normal cognitions. And by the way, if you hear any odd noises in the background, those are my budgies. So when you have these conditions for a long time, you begin to learn their patterns. You begin to learn how they function. And it gives you an edge called insight clinically, that you can use to leverage your way out of the psychosis. And this insight is what's used in cognitive behavioral therapy to treat schizophrenia and psychosis. It's used to, okay, you can figure out that something's a bit off about this delusion. Well, we can use that to make you further question the entire delusion and stop believing it. Though I should note, the point of cognitive behavioral therapy is not to cure the psychosis, but to make it livable. So, even so, my psychosis is not gone because I'm able to question it. My psychosis is not cured. It probably never will be. So what do? I have constant hallucinations. I experience what I call the color blobs. Sometimes I call them eye sparkles. Basically, these colors free floating in front of my eyes. Sometimes they're flashes of light. And I know they're not real. I've known they're not real for a very long time. But they're still there. They look real. They feel very real. So what is it like knowing that I'm constantly seeing things that don't exist, but they look like they're part of the greater world to me? Well, it's kind of boring, actually. They're just there. I have the cognitive knowledge they're not there, and I just kind of go about my day ignoring them. There is a little bit more to it than that, because these color blobs can at times morph into other things. They can morph into people, they can morph into animals. This is part of why I don't drive, because sometimes when I'm in the passenger seat of a car, they will morph into people or animals on the road, and would I be driving, I would come to a sudden stop and cause an accident. But I have learned through time and therapy to question these automatic assumptions under other, less dire circumstances. Like if I am walking on the sidewalk and suddenly a person appears several feet in front of me and there's no one else on the sidewalk and there wasn't anyone there before, there's an immediate question that comes to mind of, did that just happen? And before panicking, giving it a second to process, and then, boom, disappears. No more hallucination. Whereas instead of going into panic and going into deeper psychosis, like I might have when I was a younger teenager. So there is a lot to be said for the benefits of insight in psychosis, and I should say this is not something everyone has. There is such a thing as anisognosia. If you'd like to read more about this, I suggest the book I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help by Dr. Xavier Amador. So anisognosia is caused by damage to the brain from a mental illness or from an illness such as Alzheimer's or schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not technically a mental illness, but it's something for another day. Anisognosia is very difficult to treat. It is very difficult to live with. Anisognosia is not the choice of the person living with it. Pathological lack of insight is a medical condition. It is not a character flaw. But people who have insight, it doesn't mean they're not affected by their disorders. It doesn't mean they're not still struggling. For example, I struggle a lot with negative and cognitive symptoms of schizophrenia, and I don't want that to be overlooked. But the insight does play a large role in terms of quality of life with these disorders. People who lack insight are more often the ones who are going to end up having hospitalizations, whereas if you have a lot of insight, you're more likely to be able to have a high quality of life. So, in terms of what the whole not knowing whether things are real has done to me throughout my life, when I was younger, it definitely messed with me more. When I was a teenager, when I was first realizing I was hallucinating, it made me really upset. I was in a very dark place. I used to have bipolar features. I used to have schizoaffective. I would have these very depressed, mixed episodes, and I would get very emotional and upset over the fact that I was hallucinating. After I had my big episode that I termed my psychotic reset when I was 19 and an undergraduate, I was very upset at the fact that I had these heavy psychotic symptoms and I had a bit of a victimized mindset. But I think that now it's become very normal, it's become very mundane. And that's one thing that kind of bothers me. It's one of many things that bothers me in how psychosis is portrayed in the media. You know, psychosis isn't portrayed in the media for psychotic people. It's portrayed for non-psychotic people, and it's portrayed to scare. Psychosis is not portrayed in its mundaneness. You know, it's not always these grand, terrifying things. A lot of times it's just very boring. And you don't see that. You don't see the repetitive aspects. You don't see the boring aspects. You don't see that it goes on, and you deal with it. And like any chronic illness, you adapt. So, yeah, that's what I can think of to say for now. Thank you for joining me, and I'm sorry I can't show my face. I don't have a good setup for filming right now. Hopefully that'll change eventually. But thank you for listening, and hopefully I can get more of these going. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out my Instagram. Check out my podcast. I'll link them below. My website. I have some essays posted. Yeah, thanks. I'll see you all later. Bye.